pressure, all of it. Thanks.
How did you get started?
Just get right in there.
Oh, God. Wow. I'm trying to think what would be interesting to share there. Personally, I grew up, my father is a cinematographer, so I kind of grew up around cameras. That whole boring, like, oh, I grew up with cameras and I was attracted to image making. A little bit of that. Yeah, so it goes back a long way. I didn't do anything with it for a good 18 years just because it wasn't practical. And then I rediscovered it when I had kids and I started shooting them. And I was like, wait, I really like this. I'm kind of good at it. Why am I not doing this? So that's how I got back into it. That was like 10 years ago.
Nice. Well, for me, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And my dad had a film camera that he was getting rid of. And I thought, well, I'll just play with this. And I kind of fell in love with it. And went through high school still not knowing what I was going to do. And then college came around and I was like, oh, maybe I should check out this photography thing again, give it a shot. So I went to Heron School of Art and Design and got a degree in fine art photography and realized that that wasn't the type of photography I was really into. It's just so fine art based, and I really like working with people and being around other people that have a lot of energy. It energizes me. So yeah, I went through fine art photography and then kind of took a break and then bumped into Polina and she kicked me, you kind of kicked me in the butt, told me like, why aren't you shooting, basically. And so,
Well, you did have a degree.
yeah, I had a degree, but like I took a big break from photography and during that break, you're like, why aren't you shooting? So I started shooting and
She's back.
I'm back and here I am. Yeah, it's a pretty long-winded story, but that's how I got started. So.
We don't have crickets, so we have
So exciting, I guess, yeah.
Wedding?
Wedding photography.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah, same here.
Well, could you explain that statement first?
The sadly, yes.
Yeah.
Sure. So I'm a bit of a control freak, and I found that shooting weddings just wasn't for me because, you know, as many times as you sat down with the bride and groom and you're like, oh, here's the shot list, here's the schedule, and we're going to take the bride and groom and we have 45 minutes with them to get some nice shots. That never happened, right? It just doesn't happen. And so the quality of the imagery I felt like it wasn't really my best work. That's the short of it. And then, of course, like going through 2,000 images of the same people, the post was just tedious and really boring. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I did weddings in the beginning. I pretty much tried everything, and weddings, you know, it's a nice bit of money, so I kind of got into it for a minute, and it became too routine for me. Each day was the same, and I just got kind of bored. I got burnt out. I did a lot of second shooting too, and so I was just like following other people's routines, and I just got bored of it.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
what made you, considering your first wedding photo shoot, did you think you were ready for it? Like, had you had a lot of experience prior to?
None. My first wedding was terrible. I mean, oh gosh, I didn't even know how to use a flash, really. Like, it was so bad. Because I went to art school and there was no technical, like they didn't teach us how to actually use a camera. And one of my good friends was getting married and she was like, oh, you're a photographer, you can shoot my wedding. And I was like, okay, maybe I can. It's like, I missed the first kiss. It was that bad. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
But I had a second shooter and she knew what she was doing, so they should have hired her.
That worked out well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I second shot once, and then I just sort of jumped into it. Yeah, it's super intimidating, those first few weddings, but you kind of get into a rhythm. I mean, with weddings, I don't think there's I mean, it's good to break in as a second shooter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the way.
Recommend it?
Should have done that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're like really like to live on the edge.
I would recommend it.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how much you're charging too. Like, if you're charging like $1,000 or $500 or whatever, it's like, yeah, they're gonna get what they paid for, to some extent. If you're charging 5, 6, 7, you definitely don't want to be like, oh, this is my first wedding and I'm charging $6,000. Probably don't want to
Yeah.
do that. So
It'd be a miracle if you got paid that for your first wedding, honestly.
true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, sure.
So I was looking at your work and I really liked it, and I feel like that's the kind of photography I wanted to do, commercial fashion photography, because it never gets boring. So my question is, you've dealt with all kinds of clients before, like families for weddings as well as companies for commercial projects. So what are the key differences in dealing with these two types of clients? Like for me, like who's never ever dealt with anyone except families for portraits, but I want to get into, commercial work.
There's a pretty big difference between working with like families and then commercial clients, because family, you always have to, I don't know, families are just kind of a mess. But also commercial clients can be really tough too, because in both of them you're probably constantly educating them on what your services are and like what you can provide, and they have questions about what you do. So those are the similarities, I guess, and then the differences are like commercial could be many different things. It could be just like a basic headshot, or you might have to bring in models and like set up scenes. And with families, I mean, I don't know how to answer that really.
I think more so than weddings, assisting for a commercial photographer is probably a good way if you can do that. But probably the biggest difference that I see between what I call retail photography and what I call commercial photography is understanding licensing.
Yeah.
That is the big difference. For commercial photographers, that's where you make your money. And if you don't understand how licensing works and you don't know how to explain it to clients, you kind of screw yourself a little bit. There's also like the level of service that you provide. What I've noticed is that at this point, I am basically only wanting to work with agencies and marketing firms or big companies that have marketing departments, because what happens with smaller businesses and even with like smaller retail clients like families is they say, we want you to come in and work your magic. And what they don't understand is that magic is a whole team of people, and it's concepting the idea, and that is a lot of work. You don't just come up with this brilliance on the spot. It's research, it's mood boards, it's figuring out who, what, where, when, why. It's a lot. And so you have to be prepared to say to people, if you need a photographer, I can come in and shoot what you put in front of me. If you need somebody who's gonna art direct and work in some marketing and some branding and bring all these different elements, that's a whole different level of services. And so I don't think that happens as much with families. I mean, they just want their family documented, right? You just go in and you have the kids and the parents do different things. But with companies, they want to capture the essence. They want you to capture the essence of their business. And that's where you really kind of have to know what that looks like. So it's on the job training a lot of times, unless you are assisting for somebody else. It's hard, but it's hard. It's simple, but it's not easy. How's that? It's not like brain surgery. You can wrap your brain around, but like in terms of how you accumulate that knowledge, it just takes time, unless somebody like sits down and talks you through it. Does that make sense? I don't know if that's a good answer. Did that like confuse the hell out of everybody?
Well,
Okay.
I was reading about it, so kind of is in those lines. It's a team.
Yeah, huge.
Yes.
I love working with the team. That's part of the reason why I got into commercial and fashion, because I feel like my best work is done on the shoulders of the rest of the team. You know, the wardrobe, the hair, the makeup, the model. Like without them bringing their full talent to bear, my work wouldn't look like anything. I like that. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So.
On average, how many people are on a shoot with you? As far as how large is your team?
Oh,
Like fashion shoot or
Yeah, like
commercial?
Fashion shoot.
Oh,
6 to 10, depending. Sometimes more, sometimes less.
Yeah.
Something
my
like that.
team's a little smaller. Like
I mean, it just
3 to
depends. Like, you know, you like to
5-ish.
bring in like a little video behind
Yeah.
the scenes, and then the assistant wants an assistant.
These are for all commercial shoots.
Huh?
And these are for commercial shoots.
Well, no, this is specifically for fashion, which a lot of the
Yeah.
fashion that we've shot is like self-assigned, right? This is Indiana. Nobody's got $100,000 to blow on a fashion campaign. So, so we do that for ourselves. I'm trying to think of a commercial shoot. I mean,
Couch one.
yeah,
Deal
deal couch would have been similar, but yeah, and also like what adds the numbers to is the client. So like if you're working with an agency, you have your agency rep, you have the art director, then you have the client, then maybe the client brings somebody, then you got the models, the assistant, the hair, the makeup,
Yeah.
the wardrobe, you know, the person that just runs around. So it kind of gets big fast. And that's why it costs so much money. And then people look at the final image and they're like, oh, that's amazing. You're amazing. What lens do you use? And it's like, holy shit, it's like 20 people were there that made this happen.
Yeah.
Like, how do you convey that without being mean about it? So, yeah.
Because there's a person for each specific thing in there. There's someone watching the hair, there's someone watching the makeup, there's someone watching the clothing. Like as a photographer, you're looking at like the lighting or the mood and that kind of thing. So it's not just one person
Not at all.
that's like making
And then people
this.
are really disappointed when their pictures don't turn out like magazine quality, and you're like, you had $1,500 and you want
Yeah.
a $50,000 production quality image.
So, but do you do all your post editing?
Not all of
Or
it.
is it a combination, like you do?
It depends
first level and then-
on what it is. I'm not really good with skin, like in the way that a professional retoucher would be. You know, I don't go in and like blow it up and then, you know, I do the whole like, let's smudge out the pimples. But sometimes that's okay, right? I mean, unless you're doing a beauty shoot where you literally can see the model's every pore, I don't think it matters that much.